Hello there, Outliers. Niiamah Ashong here, and thank you so much for letting us be a part of your journey here today. Outliers, I'm smiling because we have two incredible outliers who are joining us on today's roundtable. They've gone in places that have gone beyond just being all of who they are, and they're trailblazing to help make it possible for others to step into who they are and do their thing out in the world. I mean, these are the kinds of conversations that excite me. I'm really excited for you to get to know Shirley and Dana here today. Why don't we get started here? Shirley, let's start with you. You mind letting us know more about you and the game you're currently playing?
Yeah, for 25 years, I led Inclusion Inc. And we focused on inclusion as a business strategy, and that fed my soul. That was helping remove barriers so that the best talent of any size, shape, whatever could move up through the system. And then I had to make this massive pivot because of the pushback, cultural ideology on DE&I. And we can share more about that later, but I have just founded Leader Navigator to help leaders get the courage to lead in an age of backlash.
Yeah, I get really excited about that because I think that there's something about courage that's underneath all of this here, and any kind of change in the world or make or bringing something new to the world, and so I'm really excited. And it's interesting, like I think you have a great name because you said leader navigator, and like both of those things, I was like, oh, that sounds like I get that. Like that feels really awesome. So thank you, Shirley.
So
Thanks for being
thank
here.
you.
Yeah. Dana, how about you? Would you mind letting us know more about you and the game you're currently playing?
So first of all, I love this analogy of the game, and I'll try not to wax too poetic on it. But so I'm Dana Theas. Empower Coaching and Empower Women are my business brands. But I have just recently come to the understanding that the game I'm playing is to help people in the world play the game of the world better. Because especially in business, we're all playing a game, and a lot of times we take it way too seriously, right? We think we have to win at all costs. But in fact, all of that game out there in the world is the space in which we get to build our best selves. It's the space in which we get to find the power to make the things happen in the world that really matter to us. And so my game is helping people learn the rules of the game they're playing that they often don't understand they're playing, and then play it better to win, whatever that means, whatever that means to them. And I focus in my private practice on executive and leading women, but in my corporate practice, I'm working with executive teams of all genders to kind of decrypt that game. What are the rules that you're really playing by, and how can you turn it to win on your own terms?
Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm grateful for both of you here because what I get about y'all is that y'all are able to see the whole picture and help people make changes that aren't just you know individual actions, but like actually create systems of ongoing, sustainable impact. Let's use that word for this conversation here. And so I would actually like to just get started with there's something in that nuance that feels really important to me, like, and something we may want to ground our conversation in a bit, which is like, what helped you know that, like, to go after things from a more kind of like systemic basis, from a more like organized basis, as opposed to, you know, pursuing individual actions or individual like uh, the word that's coming to me is like individual tasks or projects. Like I just feel like you all have found like you've chosen to build organizations. You've chosen to take on things in different ways. I'm curious about like what gave you that inclination that something needed to be done on a more systemic basis.
I'll
Let me
start if it, oh, go ahead, Dana.
let me just say this. I'm not sure it's exactly an answer to your question, but I think it is an answer, which is pattern seeking. The
Mm,
minute you can start to see a pattern, you can start to see the system that's producing the pattern. And so when I look back on my life, there have been multiple times when I saw the pattern and I'm like, wait, there's something under that that I can work on. And it happened for my business, but it also happened in my life. And I often coach people, look for the patterns, because the minute you can see the pattern, you can start to decrypt like what's underneath it. So anyway, that's just a wisdom I'll pop out there. I think I don't know if I have a succinct answer for my own business because I had a bumpy start.
Yeah, as we do, as we do. All right, thank you, Dana. Like, I'm curious. Like, this pattern seeking, I thought was really interesting. We'll see how it unfolds. Shirley, what you got on this one?
So for me, I didn't choose it, it chose me. And I listened. So for the first 25 years of my business, my point was make it about business so the people who don't have the experience of being the other can understand it's critical to do. And bottom line, inclusion, diversity, and equity is about selling more goods and services. So this year has been a journey for me again to say, what am I passionate about that I can pour that in? And uh, I was on a podcast in August, and the person said, I love your passion. I love your intensity. And I said, great. I got off that call and said, what am I passionate about? And it's about this fringe ideology that's counter business, counter many things, but for sure counter business. And leaders are not standing up against it. And it's creating like business sabotage for themselves.
Let's talk a little bit more here around like leaders standing up here, so you can go into uh, because like part of the reason why I got into this whole entire game was that I saw people around me that I thought like they had gone to all the right schools. They were in like they were like I was living in New York City, you know, like they were young and super energized toward things. But I saw them crumble at a time where I felt like it was time for us to like stand up, you know. And what came from me was like, oh, you can have all the things behind you, but if you're not empowered, if you're not like then like we can't go anywhere. And honest, if I'm being really honest, I'm a black male that grew up in the US. I'm like you're if you're not on your game, that makes it more dangerous for me, you know? And so that's like, I don't often come out and share like the why behind this thing, but people think it's like, oh, he wants to be a coach. He's helping people. Like, no, I'm like, I'm making a safer world for myself and for others by making sure that people can actually like stand in their power. And Dana, you brought us up like sustain that over time. So I want to talk here about the courage of leadership, the courage of being a leader, like a real leader, not just like the actions of leadership here, and leveraging the power that's there. Uh, I just know that I'm very curious about the conversation. So Shirley, I'll let you kind of, since you've been putting some thoughts into this, both of you have like your own like ways of approaching this. So why don't you share a little bit about like some of your thoughts? I'll go to Shirley first, and let's go to you, Dana, and then like we'll just open up the conversation and see where it goes.
You know, this is the first time that I can remember in my business life that leaders have hid under the boardroom table. Literally, if you look at Target and Costco on the exact same day in January, Target ditched its DEI initiative after being like the leader of this, didn't announce it publicly, and in 7 months, they lost 65% of their value. Costco, on the other hand, said, hey, we're going to explain why this matters to us. It's how we keep the best employees. It's how we have the lowest turnover. It's how we greet new segments of the market. And they put out 5 formal communications and basically said, we're going to keep doing this. No, thank you. So I think I just went way off track there from what your question was, but it felt important to sync up this. Everything that is done in the work that I did and what I'm doing is about business. It's about having the courage to say, excuse me, you know, that Kimmel ABC Disney thing, there were people in the room from what I've read in business publications who said, no, we can't do this. We can't cancel Kimmel. But they didn't, their voices were outliers, not in a good way. And so they proceeded, and notice leaders at Disney didn't do that. All the rest of us canceled our subscription, You know, they lost 3 SharePoints in 72 hours. And so you have to have the ability to identify what's the pushback? Is it made up? Is it disinformation? And then shift the script.
Nice, nice. Dana, what's coming up for you on this year?
You know, I love that you pulled out courage because I've been thinking about this a lot lately for exactly the reasons Shirley just mentioned, right? Like this is a time that calls us to really have courage, but also think about what it means. And here's what I've noticed for myself and other people. Um, courage doesn't always produce the results you think it does or should or would, right? But it does produce results. And the question is, what do you do with what happens? Can you be courageous in that? And it's really going back to patterns. I didn't think I'd be talking about patterns quite so much, but it goes back to patterns because I had a job similar to you, Niiamah, like 2 or 3 years ago. I was interviewing CEOs and founders of startups and young companies. And for like 2, 3 years, I'm like, what is it that brings them all together to what do they have in common? Is it their racial background, their religion, their demographic? They were born in silver spoons in their mouth. And the answer was none of that. The only thing they all had in common is they never gave up. When they got hit with setbacks, they said, you know what? I'm going to learn from this. And there's all kinds of literature out there on this dynamic, but it's the tenacity to have courage to keep going for what you want and what you believe is right, and to learn from whatever the heck happens and move and go on and go on. So to me, the courage is less about any one act of courage, and it's about the pattern of courage over time to be driven to stand for what you believe in, to stand for what you think is right, and to learn when things go wrong about how to keep standing for what matters to you. And the people who I see succeed do that. And ever since I've been doing that, I've met my own success standards and I'm very happy with the results. And that's my answer. It's the pattern of courage, not any act of courage that delivers what we want.
You know, and for me, I find just as an add-on to that, courage is like can be a real fluffy adjective, right? And so specifically dealing with backlash, I've identified what are the specific things that you need to do in order to have courage. So if you're sitting in the Disney ABC boardroom and if somebody would say, wait a second, that's disinformation that's coming in. This is critical to our identity here as a business. We are known to embrace diversity. We are known to include. Do we really want to go against that promise of our business? And in that frame, leaders are seriously terrified right now because they're so worried about the backlash. But I find if you break it down into like steps, observable steps, courage will be the result.
So let me offer a nuance there. I think you're right, but I also think a lot of what and courage to me is not fuzzy at all. It's a feeling. And it's a feeling that happens in response to a specific emotion, which is fear. And if you act out of fear, you can do something that appears courageous on the outside, but it's actually not because you're motivated out of fear. And courage is that it's not the action, it's the feeling you have when you face the fear and you choose to go through it. So the people sitting in those boardrooms are having all manner of reaction. Some of them are truly courageous because they're sitting with the fact of their fear and they're moving on anyway. And others are just abdicating to the fear. And the problem is we can't get inside people. We can't know if what they do takes true courage. Now we can look at an act and go, that looks to me like it's courageous because I would be afraid to act that way, right? But to me, the going back, Niiamah, to your question of like, what is it that we as business leaders have to do that's courageous to take a stand? It's like we have to know where our fear is, and we have to look at it and say, I know you're there. And sometimes I'm not going to confront you, and sometimes I am. But I'm never going to let you motivate my actions. And as long as I don't choose that, I will find a way to be courageous
Yeah,
and
I'm
to
loving.
Yeah,
take
for
the
me,
that are in
yeah,
line with being courageous.
yeah, for me, part of the reason for putting steps to it is people don't know, they haven't put together the pattern, as you say, Dana, of what the heck is happening.
That's true.
What, why did DEI get canceled starting in 2023? Where the heck did that come from? And so I find that we're always reacting, as opposed to that's where the steps come in. If you have a solid case that you can make for taking the action, you don't feel like you're going to be shunned in the executive suite.
This is.
Okay,
I'm so glad I
Nehemiah.
have like yeah I
I
have
play
like
devil's
Yeah,
advocate.
yeah. We'll play a little bit here. We'll play a little bit here. I actually like you're gonna find a little bit here. Two things. One, just to make everyone at ease, Niiamah is the name. Just like you can lean into that one. Just dance into it.
yeah,
I think that there's I take a stance. My things. I'm like I don't really need. I want discussion, not debate, because I feel like debate like puts people into a corner, and then you have to be right. There's no win in there. Like at least let me say this. It's just not interesting to me. But what I'm really grateful in this conversation, right? Because I hear you both saying the same things with different lenses on it, and the reason that and what makes me grateful about that is because I know that outliers are able to listen to this and hear what they need to hear, and so there's certain things that were really playing out. One, pattern of courage, if that's not a trademark thing, Dana, like it feels really good. I like and what like I talk to people about intuition, right? But I'm also like I do coaching, but I have a background in economics. Like I'm great with math. I was a retirement actuarial consultant. Like so I live in both worlds. And like sometimes I'm like, oh, intuition is just advanced pattern recognition. It's just
Yes.
like they're not they may not be two the similar things. And so one, I'm hearing this element of like pattern of courage. My mind goes to culture as well, and so I'm thinking about culture with this, which is like okay, that's like the patterns of what we've seen, what we reward, what we have come on here. I see that as a tapestry of culture as well, and I think about what you're saying here, Shirley, with leadership and not just leaders. And I think there's like I'm trying to find for myself what the distinction between leadership and leaders is. I think like there's things to make a there are actions that have kind of been a playbook that has worked in leadership in the past, but it doesn't necessarily make you a leader. And I think that right now, like there's a distinction. It's like, no, we actually need you to lead, not just do the actions of leadership.
Mm.
Yes, like we need you to lead us forward. And so I'm a lot of this is working on me as I hear this from one, being able to break it down into what are the practical things. And then two, being able to, I wrote this down here. You said courage is the feeling you have when you face the fear, and some are sitting with it, and some are sitting with the fact of it, and some are moving with it. I love, love, Dana, that you brought in the element of like we can't tell on the outside whether something's courageous or not. It's a reason why when I came on here, I'm like, we're going to talk less about your expertise and talk more about your experience. Because my thing is that we often judge ourselves with how we feel on the inside, with how others look on the outside. And there's a lot of times where people are like, you need to be courageous. I'm like, oh, actually, the best things I've done, what most people thought were courageous, I was just playing or I was just bored. Like if I tried to go through it through the fear angle, I wouldn't do it. But from like that, wouldn't it be awesome if I had hundreds of people come on this podcast and I got to spread their message out in the world? Not courage isn't a part of it. And so I'm really grateful, like just on my own end here, like you're codifying something that feels very real and giving us different lenses in which to approach it. I'm not going to ask a question. I feel like that would take away from this moment. I'm curious what's bubbling up for either of you as I bring in this kind of frame to it. Then I see you going, and let's go with that.
I love, so here's what was coming up for me, which is the distinction between being and doing.
Yeah.
And leaders they are leaders. They do leadership actions, to your point, that distinction, right? And part of the challenge is that when you're doing things, you're in the doing. Is there a principle behind it? That's what the leader does. The leader, establishes themselves in their own minds as a leader, and they operate at a meta level, which is, what am I trying to accomplish? What's the most important thing that I can accomplish here, not only through my own actions, but through the actions of others? And how do I utilize the resources that I can mobilize to create something meaningful in the world? The leader is sitting with that question. And the actions of leadership they take will be dependent on what the answer to that question is. And sometimes they go make decisive decisions and they activate things in the world. And sometimes they wait because the pattern has not shown itself. The resources aren't there in alignment with the problem yet. You know, there are so many things you can do from that space of being a leader. And then when you take action, hopefully it's because, I see the most meaningful outcome. I see the resources. I can now put them together. And sometimes it's a phone call. You need to talk to so-and-so, go make that happen. Boom, somebody else makes it happen. Sometimes it's them working their butt off for 2 years to really make something happen. There's no single answer. The doing is always most appropriate to what the leader perceives as the best outcome that can be accomplished with the time and energy and resources they have. And so in my little world, when you were talking, those are the distinctions to me between leading and doing. And going back to what Shirley said, the actions are totally important. They're absolutely important. The steps and the breakdowns, totally important. If they come from this place of a leader's being, that those are the right steps to take.
Yeah, for me, what's bubbling up are, because my work has been largely with Fortune 500 companies, and there's a norm. There is a cultural norm of what is acceptable to say, how you say it, to who you say it. So I was with Frito-Lay before this, and one time I called the person who was in charge of getting us display boxes for chips, okay? I got read the riot act because I broke, quote unquote, chain of command. Hey, we're supposed to hit our numbers, but we couldn't have this. So I think I was scanning my brain when I was thinking about where have I actually been that the cultural norms don't have consequences if you don't comply with them. And Dana, I really liked what you're saying about, the doing of that. And yet I watch frequently where people say what they can safely say instead of what really needs to be said or done.
Well, I will say, so speaking truth to power is a very delicate challenge. And that's where I go back to your game analogy, Niiamah, which is, you know, you're playing in those norms, you're playing a game, and there are people who are playing outside the rules and winning, but they're doing it in a very aware and nuanced way. And so it's always important to know the game you're playing and to decide, do I want to play this game? And some games you don't want to play. You're like, I'm out of here. I can't take a stand that matters for me here. I'm leaving. And sometimes like, no, I can still get some things done. And so I'm going to play in the rules of the game enough, but I know my game. My game goes beyond this game. I'm going to get a job after this. That's my game. So I'm going to play this game for what I can get out of it. And so all this awareness, this is coming from the being space. And then the doing is in service of the being and what you're trying to accomplish. And the best leaders operate on multiple levels like this. You know, it's like three-dimensional chess. You're operating on all these different levels.
It's reminding me of a CEO in a highly successful company. We did an audit and interviewed people and did focus groups. And he was very clear what he thought the culture was of the organization. When I brought the report back, he told me I was wrong, that I must have not listened carefully.
So that he said that you surely were wrong, like he was disputing the results that he got from the report. Okay, cool. Just want to make sure I
And
understand
the
who the I
reason
was.
that I'm bringing that up, yeah, that I didn't listen well, that no, people didn't feel excluded. No, there was great potential for their careers. And two times in my life, like in my own business, that I've been like significantly beat up, right? Was one of them. It's like, this is what your people said. But the rules of that game, well, there were two parts. There were golden handcuffs because they all made a lot of money. And so were they going to comply, or were they going to speak their truth and potentially get stuck in their career?
Like, go ahead, Dana.
I just want to tell a short story of so I've had that happen to me in various ways too, but I had one thing happen that proved to me that there were other options out there, which by the way, I didn't control. I once was working at a huge company that was owned by an even huger company, and I was dealing with the top executives of said huge company, and my boss reported to one of the top executives. And I penned this report suggesting that we go into a whole new market and here was why and all this, I had all this great big ideas. This was early in my career. And I went ahead and I sent it to one of the big executives without going through my boss. And I knew he would kill it. He would just say, no, you can't do this. But that big executive had asked for my opinion. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to answer it. And I sent it and I forgot about it. And a few months later, my boss calls me in and he reams me. He's like, you sent this report and you didn't come to me. And, I broke every norm, to your point, Shirley. I broke every norm. I'm like, oh God. But I still knew I'd done the right thing. And then he goes, and that executive wants you to sit on a work on a work task force that's going over to Europe for the next 6 months, and he wants half your time, and I have to give it to him. So you're on this task force. Go to Europe.
Excellent.
And I was like, yes. Because I had broken the norms, but I had given the executives something to think about, they needed to think about for the purpose of the business's success. And by the way, my idea went absolutely nowhere, but I got a great task force experience and some great professional development and networking.
This is it's really interesting because as it's almost like an element of courage right now. As we're talking, I realized something here. Um, I used to work in corporate. I was like my last job was the tech company, and before that, I was on one of the top consultant firms. And as we're talking, I realized that did I exited? I decided to exit that game because like I couldn't find like the freedom I was looking for, and I couldn't find like it just wasn't going to work for me at the ways that I knew things were possible. Like certainly, like it's interesting. DE and I ended up being a black man that was in one of these spaces, and when I was going through everything, when I was going through my career, like typically the stats were 3% of the people in the industries I was in, whether it was the actuarial industry or the tech industry, were African American. And so like I actually, even to this day, I still like call myself part of the 3% club. There's probably gonna be a program that I have around that overall, right? Um, and as you're talking, it's just reminding me of like it's reminding me, but it's also like helping me see like, oh yeah, I decided to leave that game for a reason because there are norms, and it is like it does feel really risky, and there's not, and it's like we're used to having jobs or being able to provide with stability and so on and so forth. And so like honestly, I'm not gonna lie, like right now see myself as an entrepreneur. I'm like, oh, this is easy, like I have control. Shirley, you were talking like I did this thing for 25 years. The whole macro environment changed against this one thing, which honestly, like now in 2025, when we're talking about it, DEI, like it has its stance. But I'm like in 2000, this was not the thing. You've been pioneering in this space here, right? And then to like get to this point and then have to change. And what I get to meet you in a place of empowered. I get to meet you in a place of like not crumbled in or like shaking your fist towards something. Just like to Dana, I think you said speaking truth to power. You're here. You're speaking truth. You're bringing your truth out here, right? And I hear you calling people in. I hear you call leaders in to be like, hey, hi, I see you. Remember to be courageous. We can break it down into steps, but at the end of the day, like it's actually bad for business and not good for you to like not stand in all of who you are and to stand in the power of all this here. So there's something I just want to like I want to play out here because you're actually giving me something in this space here where like the next time I go around, I'm like I'm feeling something about my business. I'm like, but I put myself in a position to play a different game, to play outside of that, and I can stand in it and say I have the I got to create my own norms. You know, I got to create my own norms. So I want to make sure I'm stating this for any outlier that's listening here. Like if you're in a place where yeah, I think like we have people who are business professionals, we have people who are entrepreneurs, and everything in between. Like listen to this here and see like what are the opportunities available to you? Who are you being? How are you doing? When things are coming your way, how are you breaking it down? There's a lot going on in this conversation that's beyond do this, do that, do this. Here goes a 7-step system. Like I really appreciate you all because you're drudging up things that are making us have to confront ourselves and who we think we are as leaders and giving us an opportunity to choose things, choose the path that we want to go down. So I really want to say that here. Like my conversations are nonlinear for a reason. But y'all are doing a fantastic job just continuously helping us like challenge ourselves in what we think. We're about to start
You know, I
wrapping up our
love,
conversation. Go ahead,
okay,
Shirley. Say that first.
I'll make it quick. I
Uh-huh.
love what you said about you chose not to play the game.
Mm,
Because when I think about, I'm on the outside of corporations now. I can play the game with clients. I can follow what rules I'm supposed to follow and norms, but I get to go back and do my own thing that feeds my soul. And that is to me, beating Lay's potato chip goals sales from last year to this year did not feed my soul. But trying to make a difference and inviting leaders to step up, that does make a difference.
I'm grateful for y'all. Like this is the conversation I didn't know I needed. So just know that like there will be ripple effects as a result of this conversation that go further out. What do I want to do here? What I would like to do is I want to firstly talk to you outliers that are listening. One, take a pause right now, breathe in, and think about like what's your biggest insight from any part of the conversation that's happened right now. Don't be a spectator in this. Like this is not, I don't have an audience, right? This is a movement of us outliers together choosing to create something differently in the world, and we're seeing how like what it's like on the inside for Shirley and Dana to have to actually to go out in the world and show up the way that they do, right? So give yourself some time. What's an insight that you're taking from this conversation? And once you have that insight, my ask is that you think about someone in your world right now who would benefit from this conversation. They don't need to have the same insight, but if you can go and share this to them as a gift and say like, "Hey, I heard Shirley and Dana talk about this, and I think that like this would really be impactful for you." Please go ahead and do that. I think like I'm all in for you sharing this on your socials and like letting the whole world know like people should know. But my underlying thing is underneath this in 3 years time people will still be sharing this episode if we do it with intention to the right person who needs to hear that message right now. And that to me, that's what excites me. I can get a flash in the pan, but to have sustainable power to continue onwards, that to me is something really awesome. All right, so take that in. Shirley and Dana, I am so grateful for the two of you here. I think what I'm going to do is I don't always do this, but I think I'm going to end us with a three-parter. Okay. The first part here is what I'm going to call outsights. So I asked outliers to think about their insights, which is about what they got from the conversation here. Outsights is what do you want outliers to know, right? So if there was one outsight you could share with outliers in terms of for anyone who's finding themselves in this position or looking to grow in different ways, what would that outsight be? And then let us know what is the best way for us to continue down the journey with you. Just what's the best way for us if, on the outlier wanted to go down your world. All right, Shirley, let's start with you.
Sure. My outside is to feel in your body, like literally, if what you're doing is what you're supposed to be doing. I'm a big fan of, saying, okay, what now? Is this good or isn't this good? And then watching for all the signs that come in. And when you choose to act on your your passion, your purpose, which sounds really kind of fluffy, but the impact of what I do really has great results. It's not easy all the time. I, sometimes you just have to go in the backyard and scream. Sometimes you just have to swear a lot, and then you have to go back, keep asking myself, is this what you're meant to do? Is this your purpose for being on the planet at this time? And that helps ground me when I'm in the process of like pivoting and creating this whole new body of work called Leader Navigator. So you could find me in about 2 weeks on the leadernavigator.com. We'll have our website up. And the book that I have coming out won't come out till February, How Leaders Win in an Age of Backlash.
Awesome. Awesome, awesome. So Outliers, one of the cool things about having a platform like this is that this lives on into the infinities. So like go to her website, read the book, and if there are other books out there, read them too. Right. Shirley, it's been great having you. I'll come back to you with one last question at the end of this, okay? Dana, how about you? What's your insight and what's the best way for Outlier? Sorry, what's your outside and what's the best way for Outliers to go down the journey with you?
So on the outside, Shirley, you took one of my go-tos, right? Which is constantly ask yourself, why am I here? And am I doing that thing? Right. And the answer will change a little over time, but over time you just get closer to it. So what I'm going to do is take a page out of your book, Shirley, and apply that to one of my rules about how I do that in a way that and when I give it to my clients, it helps everybody. It's so simple. It's called choose joy. Because the act of choice, act of choice is an act of power. You want to take the elevator or take the stairs. It doesn't matter what you choose and you'll feel better about it. So choosing joy is about, no matter how many choices are in front of you, knowing which one will bring you closer to joy and choosing that. Because when you don't know which one is right, but one of them has more joy attached to it, either in the act or the other end of it, you take that, you bring a little more joy into your life, and guess what? Over the course of your life, that's a pattern of joy, and it always leads you to where you need to be and you want to be, always. So choose joy every time. That's my outline insight. It's an act of power that brings you closer to joy. And my website is spelled weird. It's InPower, INPOWER, coaching.com. And that's for all leaders. But my special project for female leaders is at empowerwomen.substack.com, where I'm working with women to try to rewrite the whole narrative on femininity, female leadership, female power, as if we could just start over. What would it be if we could just start over? So come join me on Substack if you're curious about that mission.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I got one more for y'all, but like I just heard something you did there, Dana, that makes me have to talk to the Outliers one more time. So Outliers, my ask of you is this. I'm going to invite you to go back and listen to this conversation again. It's the first time I'm doing this. But like this first time you're listening to it, you're probably listening to what Shirley and Dana had to say and like how that might apply to you and so on and so forth. This next time, I want you to go back and listen to it and see like who they were being throughout it. Notice the ways in which they notice how they talked about things. They're both successful in their businesses. They're both and they've grounded everything. Like Shirley, I love how you're like, we're talking DE and I, but like this is a business choice. This all comes back to this here, Dana, like even the way that you position like in power and you're like this, a project that I'm doing right now is this, like there are ways in seeing how they are being, what they say, like watch what I do, not what I say, kind of thing. I really invite you to come back in here because there's a hidden masterclass that's taken place, and I really respect both of you for figuring out how you bring some of like the things that may feel more esoteric, may feel more higher level. I mean, we're talking power, we're talking courage, we're talking DEI, like, and everything stays grounded, and both of you walk it as an example. One of my rules that I have in this space, like one of the games that I play with this, is that we model the future in the present. And I really see the two of you doing that. So I want to thank you. And
Activate.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we're going to end here with the last question here. I'm going to go Dana, then Shirley. I'll just reverse the order here. We have our outsides. We know how people can follow in. Now I want to check in with you. The only reason I have conversations is that every conversation I have is to change the world, right? And so I'm curious for you, in what ways has this conversation, what takeaways are you taking from this year? What insights do you have as a result of being in this conversation? I'd like to share this out here. It also goes that element of like what we think is happening on the outside may not be what's happening on the inside. And so I'm glad to give Outliers a chance to hear a bit of this too. So Dana, would you mind getting us started on that? What's something you're walking away with from this? And if there's nothing, you can say that too.
No, I always walk away with something. I'm walking away with a real appreciation for how much power there is in just being ourselves. And to what you said, there just if you just show up and be who you are, something invisible gets created between other people who are doing the same thing. And it feels really good and it feels really rich. And your call to have us like go back and listen again and like pick up those other dimensions is really, I hadn't thought about that either. And I think I will do that. And I think it's because as you said, we're showing up to be who we are, and we've created multiple layers of meaning here. And we're always afraid to be who we are. But when we do, something amazing always comes out of it. And so I'm just walking away with proof of that point, which I already believed, but now I'm getting a chance to experience it again. So thank you both.
Thank you. Thank you. And Shirley,
For
bring us
me,
home.
yeah, Niiamah, you have a style and a depth about you that that brings two worlds together for me. So it's what I do in business, and then the other part is all the depth of how I'm led, how I get insights, what could be called woo-woo stuff, but you really integrate it in a way. So I really want to thank you for that. My two takeaways are the reminder of the brilliance of authenticity, and also from a business perspective, even on more solid ground, that I'm reconfirmed the direction that I'm going with Leader Navigator is on track. So thanks so much for having me.
Thank you both here. This was a wonderful exchange, a really wonderful exchange. I believe in you all, and I'm grateful that you do the work that you do. I'm glad we came together. Outliers. Here's the thing. Until the next time we all talk, remember to be you on purpose. Journey on.